Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Keepin It Real podcast. I am your host, McKaylee Lanabill, and if you are new here, welcome to the fun, and if you are not new here, welcome back. I'm so excited to have you. I have just been loving every part of this podcast lately. It's just truly been such a gift from the Lord that He has given me. I didn't think that this podcast would become something that it has and has would mean so much to me. Truthfully, this podcast wasn't even going to be a faith-based podcast, but it has come to a faith-based podcast, and I wouldn't wish it any other way because truthfully, there's no other way that I would want to be speaking than the actual truth that is the world. Jesus is the truth, and that is all that I want to speak. That is all that I want to share, and that is all that I want my listeners or anyone who is listening to know. Because if I'm not speaking through Jesus, then I'm not giving you correct information. If I'm not speaking through Jesus' word, then I'm not giving you correct information. And I think that that is why I'm so happy that this is a faith-based podcast because it's all truth. So, welcome in. We're going to dive right in today. Today, we're going to be in Luke. I'm going to be reading quite a bit of scripture today, just because, God has been speaking to me, y'all. It's kind of crazy. I truthfully can't believe, how much God has been speaking to me because I've been asking Him to. Like He tells us, ask and you shall receive. If you ask Him to speak to you and to give you signs and to give you clarity, He will most definitely do that. And ever since I listened to a podcast recently, they were talking about how we should be praying and asking God to speak to us through His word before we read our Bible. Don't just dive right into your Bible without asking God to speak to you, because you're just going to be lost and confused. And I was definitely kind of lost and confused, and I finally started to start praying before I read my Bible, and it all just makes so much more sense to me now. So we are going to be, like I said, in Luke, just because that is what I'm reading right now. I finished John, so we're in Luke, and I thought John was my favorite, but Luke might be there. Luke is good, y'all. You guys, if you haven't dove into Luke yet, get there, because it is so good, and it's so real, and it just, right now, especially in the world that we are in, it's just so good. So the first thing that I wanted to kind of just dive into today was just talking about, is your sin too much? So I think if you aren't a believer and you are new to Christianity or walking with God, you're always wondering, is what I've done too much? Is my sin too bad? Is my life too bad to come to Jesus? The answer simply is no. There is nothing that is too much for Jesus. There is nothing too bad for Jesus, because guess what? Jesus forgives. Jesus saves us. No matter what we are doing, no matter how bad we have sinned, no matter how wrong we have done people, no matter how wrong we've done Jesus, He's always forgiving us and He's always loving us, and your sin is never too much. And something that I've definitely struggled with in my life is my past of being like, okay, I've done too much wrong. I can't go back to Jesus now. I've done too much wrong. I can't have Christian friends. I can't have good people in my life because I'm not good. And what that is that's all lies from the enemy. That's the enemy coming in to attack you and to tell you all of the bad, horrible things about you, because that's all that the enemy is. He's bad. He's horrible. All he wants is to remind you of the bad things that you are or that you give to this life. So no, your sin is not too much. If you have had sex before marriage, if you have had an alcohol problem, if you've done drugs, it does not matter, because the thing is Jesus wants you to come back to Him. He has His arms wide open, is waiting for you to come to Him so that you can experience the freedom and the love that He gives. When you hear Christians talk, when you hear people talk about, I'm changed, I'm a new creation, I'm this, I'm that, it's genuinely true. And I didn't understand that, and I did not get that until I started studying Jesus, until I started reading the Bible. I just kept hearing on all the podcasts that I was listening to, I just feel free. I have I have fulfillment. I have the Lord. I have all these things. And I was like, okay, I get it. I'm following Jesus too, but I don't have that. And that's because I didn't know him to the depths that I know him now. I didn't understand that everything that he writes in the Bible literally explains my life, explains our world, explains what happens in our world. And that is what Jesus gives us. He gives us clarity. He gives us fulfillment. He wrote it all down for us. The Bible is literally strategically made for us to understand exactly what is going on in our lives. And I think that is why the Bible is so beautiful. And that is why when people are reading the Bible, they're understanding so much, because the Bible is literally telling us exactly what is happening in our lives and in our world, and what the truth is and how to get out of it. I used to fill myself with so much personal development. I have, for about 3 years now, been obsessed with podcasts. Podcasts have just been my life. And all the podcasts that I was listening to before starting to walk with Jesus were all about personal development, mental toughness, this, that, the other thing. And I would feel it, and I would feel fueled and fired in the moment, and I would feel amazing. But then afterwards, I would just still be so lost and be like, okay, I just don't understand what this means. Like, I felt it for a second, but now I don't feel it anymore. And when I read the Bible now, when I listen to Christian podcasts, when I listen to people who are speaking truth and life over you, I feel fulfilled. I understand. I get it. It's not this like fleeting feeling, because Jesus isn't fleeting. Jesus is constant. Jesus is everything. He's perfect. And personal development is, again, just another worldly thing that is a great thing. And personal development, I think, is important. And I think personal development, if I didn't do my personal development, I don't think it would have led me to Jesus. Because at the end of the day, personal development is making you a better person, just like following Jesus is. So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with personal development. But some of the things that come with it are a lot of worldly desires instead of Jesus desires. And that, again, is just a fleeting, unfulfilling feeling that you're never going to get or understand. But with Jesus, you will always get, and you will always understand, and you will always feel fulfilled, and you will always feel good after reading his word. Now, don't get me wrong. There are moments that you read your Bible and it's not all going to make sense. And it's going to be a lot of unanswered questions that you have. But that is the beauty of it, is you can go back to it and then understand it in another level, in a different concept, and it all will make more sense. I am going to read Luke chapter 10, verse 23 to 24. So it says, "Then turning to the disciples, he said privately, 'Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I tell you that many prophets and kings desired to see what you see and did not see it, and to hear what you hear and did not hear it.'" So this is recording Jesus' praise to God the Father and a celebration of the salvation offered to believers. So believers always have salvation. We are offered that from God, from Jesus. It's a beautiful thing that they give us. I think it just goes back to, no matter, again, what you've done, it doesn't matter. People who have followed God and people who follow God are the most broken, are the most hurt people. But through him, we get healing and we get peace. I think something that has been so crazy lately, I went to a Bible study last week, and I've just, again, been praying for the Lord to speak to me in ways that I don't understand, and in ways that he can just help me understand. And I think what is crazy, and what I have just experienced so much in these last like 2 weeks, is that there are so many people on fire for the Lord right now. There are so many people. You see it everywhere right now. It is such a thing. And all of these people that are on fire for the Lord, that I have connected with, that I have listened to on podcasts, are all the same as me. We all come from the same background: drinking, partying, sexual sin, all the things, gossip. We all come from that. Everyone sins. We are all sinning every single day. We are not perfect. And that is the beautiful thing that we get to explain to everyone that we come in contact with that you can be free from your sin. You can be free from the things that are holding you down, the things that are breaking you. We know what that is. We experience that. And it is something that unless you have experienced it, you won't understand. And following Jesus is a choice. It is not a trend. It is not, Jesus right now. No, no, no. Jesus is a choice to follow him for the rest of your life. This is not just something that is just popular on your For You page or anything like that. He is constant. He is the only thing that's constant in our life. And the thing is that people are so scared to be free from their sin because they are afraid that of coming to the Lord and expressing what they've done. The scariest thing is expressing what you've done and confessing what you've done. Confession is scary. Saying how you feel is scary. But the thing is that it frees you. Confession frees you. It frees you of all of the things that are going on with your life. It frees you because you can finally come to the Lord and say, Lord, take this off my chest. Lord, I need you. I need you. Just that's all you need to say. Lord, I need you. And he comes. He's right here. He is constantly by our side. He's constantly helping us. And nothing is going to stop him from doing that. So I think just the thing that I've experienced the most is that there are a million people in this world with the exact same story as you. Jesus' disciples, the people who followed Jesus, they were sinners, they were alcoholics, they were robbers, they were this, they were that. All of the things that I was and all of the things that I'm sure that you were once. And Jesus still took them in. Jesus still forgave them. Jesus still loved them. There was this girl in my Bible study last week. She was truly unbelievable. And something that she said that I loved so much. Jesus takes our sin when we are a child of him. And he takes our sin, he puts it to the bottom of the ocean, and he never remembers it again. He doesn't hold on to it. He doesn't, oh my gosh. Kaya is here and wants to come and say hi. So Kaya is going to sit with us. Oh, you want to see the microphone? I'm back. So something that she said is that Jesus takes our sin and he puts it to the bottom of the ocean and he never remembers it. He forgets it. It's gone. It doesn't matter anymore. And he washes us with his blood because we are a new creation every time in him. When we sin and we repent and we ask him for forgiveness, he puts it to the bottom of the ocean and doesn't remember it anymore. And I think the beautiful thing of that is that we get to learn a lot from that. There is a lot of us out there, including me, that cannot forgive and are constantly holding on to things that don't serve us. We're constantly unforgiving. We're not forgiving people for what they've done. We're not forgiving people for hurting us. And how is that serving us? How are we going through life if we can't forgive people for what they've done? We're all doing things wrong. We all cannot be perfect. And guess what? Yes, things hurt and things are rough and life is not always rainbows and butterflies, but people make mistakes and people need to know that there is forgiveness out there. And say that you forgave someone and you got to show them what forgiveness is like. What if they've never forgave someone in their whole life and you show them forgiveness and they're able to forgive now and change their life and live their life in a beautiful way that they didn't understand. So I think that that's something we get to learn from Jesus. We get to learn a lot from Jesus, but something we get to learn from him is that we get to forgive. No matter what happens, forgiveness is a part of life. Forgiveness is a commandment that Jesus gives us. And if he can forgive us, if he can put our sins to the bottom of the ocean and never remember them again, then why can't we? Because Jesus is so beautiful and he is so perfect and we are constantly going against him. We are constantly doing things wrong, but yet he can put our sin to the bottom of the ocean and never remember it. So that's something that I really took because forgiveness is hard for me. I used to like to hold on to a lot of things and use it against people. And that is something that working with God and learning God that I have definitely overcome and definitely worked through, that forgiveness is so important, and it's freed me from so many things. You would still hold on to the past of my boyfriend cheating on me or being in an abusive relationship, and brought that into my relationship now with Chase. And at the end of the day, if I would have just forgiven them, if I would have just let that go and ask God to take it and ask God to help me forgive them, I can only imagine if I didn't bring all of those hurts and those traumas into my relationship with Chase, how our relationship would have flourished more. So I think that that's just a beautiful thing that I experienced last week and wanted to share. Just wrapping up, is sin too much? Is your sin too much? No, your sin is not too much. Our sin isn't too much for Jesus. It's too much when we don't have Jesus and when we're not repenting and we're not confessing and we're not learning from it. Yes, that is when your sin is too much. But your sin is never too much for Jesus, because he wants you at your most broken part so he can build you up and he can give you that foundation. Because if you come to him already perfect and already this and that, which we aren't, he can't build you up on his foundation. So yes, he wants you to come with your sin, with your shame, because there's no condemnation. There's none. So just know that if you are in this hard place right now of wondering if you should start following Jesus, but you're scared because you think that you've sinned too much, you haven't. So just pray about it. Give it to God. Ask him to help you understand how much he loves you, and he will. I promise you. You just got to give it to him. Just talking on how God has spoke to me this week a little bit more. So, oh my gosh, I'm already getting chills. So this is just wild. I had heard this story in the Bible before with one of my Bible studies that I was doing with my friend. And I had not read it again until I just started reading Luke, and I started reading it again. And I was like, oh, yeah, I read this with my friend Lily. And I was reading it again, and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much more sense today. Like, I'm really understanding it now. And so I shared it with Chase, and in Luke chapter 10, and it's verse 25 to 37. And basically what it's talking about is it's saying a lawyer stood up to put him to the test, saying, teacher, so he's asking Jesus, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? So Jesus is telling him, what you should do is you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. So we should love everyone with all of our heart, just as Jesus does, no matter what color they are, no matter what race they are, no matter what their political view is, no matter if they are gay, straight, whatever they are. He is telling us that we should love everyone in this world no matter what. He's asking him, Jesus, who is my neighbor? So Jesus goes into this story of talking about that there was a man going down from Jerusalem to Jericho, and he fell among robbers who stripped him and beat him and departed, leaving him half dead. So he's talking about someone that got robbed, and he got stripped of everything, and he got beaten, and he's left half to death. So now, by chance, a priest was going down that road, and he passed him on the other side and just left him. Then a Levite going down that same road and passed him on the other side of the road as well and just left him. But a Samaritan, as he journeyed, came to where he was, and when he saw him, he had compassion. He went to him and bound up his wounds, pouring on oil and wine. Then he set him on his own animal and brought him to an inn and took care of him. And the next day he took out 2 denarii, took out money, and gave them to the innkeeper, saying, take care of him, and whatever you spend, I will repay you when I come back. So he's asking him now, which of these 3 do you think proved to be a neighbor to the man who fell among the robbers? He said, the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus said to him, you go and do likewise. So what this story is showing us is that no matter who we see, if we see someone sinning, if we see someone on the side of the road, if we see a liberal or a Republican, we need to love them and respect them and take care of them no matter what the circumstance. Because what the crazy part is that this literally goes back to our world right now. Look at the world we're living in. What just happened with Trump a couple days ago? Do you want to know what this is all sparking? A civil war in between the people. This is sparking hatred. This is sparking division. This is sparking demonic things that Satan comes in, and this is exactly why he does the things that he does. Is because he wants us to go apart from Jesus and to be so nasty and mean to other people instead of being loving and a good Samaritan and have compassion like Jesus tells us to. What is, at the end of the day, going up to someone when they have a different political view and saying something to them? I'm going to be honest with you. After what happened with Trump, when he was almost shot in the head, I was in Publix with Chase, and this woman said something on the phone, and she said, too bad they missed. And I went at her and said something very mean. I'm not going to repeat what I said, but I said something very mean. And instead of praying for her, instead of going up to her with compassion, I said something so terrible. And at the end of the day, what is that doing for me? I'm trying to be this tough guy. You know, I come from New York. I got to be the New Yorker. I gotta be strong and tough. And it's like, no, I don't. I need to be loving, and I need to be pouring out Jesus, especially in these times, in these days that we live in. There is nothing that being nasty and mean to people is going to prove. Nothing. But showing love and compassion is going to pour out Jesus and is going to show people who Jesus is. When you are following Jesus, all you should be doing is pouring out love and compassion and showing who Jesus is through you. Because that is your role as a disciple, that is your role as a follower of Jesus, is to show love through you. And this is just a perfect story of having compassion and love to whoever, to anyone. This, a guy is passed out on the road, and people are just walking by. A priest, a Levite, people are just walking by and just leaving him on the side of the road. No. A good, compassionate person would go and pick him up and take care of him, just as this person did in the story that Jesus was telling. And tying this all in, what the crazy part of it was, so I read this on Monday morning, and that day I was in the gym and I was listening to Maddie Pruitt's podcast. Again, I had read this story to Chase, and I just was like, listen to how crazy this story is. Like, it's just showing like how much we need to be loving to other people. And he was like, wow, that's like such a good story. And we like talked about it for a little while. And I was listening to Maddie Pruitt's podcast, and I listen to a podcast every time that I work out in the gym. It just gets me through my workouts. If you don't listen to a podcast when you're working out, I highly recommend it. It's just life-changing. It literally changed the games for your workouts. So they're talking, and all of a sudden, her husband starts talking about this exact story. And I had already had like my notes. I was writing notes like while I was reading my Bible that morning on what I wanted to talk about in my podcast. Like, I wasn't even planning on doing a podcast, but I was just like, wow, like everything is jumping out to me right now. Like, I need to do a podcast on all of this. So I literally have all of my notes written down. Like, for anyone who can't see, like, these are my notes that I was writing down when I was reading my Bible. So I literally wrote down, read this story and explain like how we need to show love in this world because we live in a fallen world. And this was the day after Trump had been shot at. And literally her husband starts saying the exact same thing that I was going to talk about on this episode. And I was just like, no freaking way. I started getting chills. I was like, literally eyes open, like in the gym. I was like, what the heck is going on? And I think it was just a reminder from God to say, you do need to talk about this on your podcast, because now people are going to hear it from them. People are going to hear it from you. And it is a reminder that we all need right now, especially with what just happened with Trump, that we all need to love each other no matter what, because you see the media going crazy. You see people going back and forth like crazy at each other, just saying the most horrible, negative things to each other and about Trump. I don't care if you like Trump or not. No one should be getting shot at. No one should be getting hurt. No one should be dying. It shouldn't be happening. But yet we are so consumed by the evilness of this world, and we live in such a fallen world that we just fall right into saying awful, mean things to each other. And this is just a great story and a great reminder from Jesus that no, we need to be loving toward each other, especially in these times. Especially. Like, there's no excuse. And also, showing compassion and love is going to, at the end, make us feel so much better. After I said that to that woman in Publix, the anxiety that I felt just from being rude to someone, or going down to that level, or going down to Satan's level, I just had so much anxiety and just so much fear and sadness after that. And especially even after what happened with Trump, like the anxiety that I was feeling after that was just crazy. And I just sat down and prayed afterwards, and I was like, Lord, just help be with me, be with this world right now. Help us to understand what's truly going on, and but ultimately help us be compassionate and loving towards one another, because in in these times of uncertainty in our world, the only thing that we can be certain of is Jesus. And we put all of our faith and our trust in these people. We put our faith and our trust in political people, when it's like, for what? They're still fleeting. They're not perfect. They are constantly sinning. They're constantly putting each other down. When you watch a debate, when you watch what's going on with Republican national conventions, all these rallies, everything, all it is constantly putting people down. That is what we have to look up to right now. That is not what we should be looking up to. We should be looking up to Jesus. We don't have any good people to follow right now, because everyone is constantly putting down the other person. And at the end of the day, that's ultimately teaching us to put down other people, when we should never be putting down other people. We should be compassionate and loving, just as Jesus was. Because, like I said, even if we're sinning, even if we're wrong, Jesus still loves us and is still forgiving us. So just remember this story, and to just have compassion and love for everyone right now, especially in these times, because these times are scary. These times are tough. We live in a very, very fallen, broken world, especially right now. And this is the time to follow Jesus, you guys, because you are seeing people come to Jesus more and more and more. And it's for a reason. And I truly believe it's because Jesus needs us more than ever right now to be on this earth and to be spreading his word, because Lord knows we need it. It's a sad, crazy world we live in. So just keep looking towards Jesus. Another story that I just want to touch on before we wrap things up is Luke chapter 11. This one was truly crazy. I read this one this morning. This is Luke chapter 11, verse 17. It says, "But he, knowing their thoughts, said to them, every kingdom divided against itself is laid waste, and a divided household fails." Now going on to verse 18. "And if Satan also is divided against himself, how will his kingdom stand?" So, basically talking about our world, we are living in a divided world, y'all, a divided world. And what he is saying here is that a divided household fails. So the more divided that we are, the more hatred that we're putting towards each other, our world is failing. We are not being free. We are failing as a world. And then in verse 18, when it goes, "And if Satan also is divided against himself, how will his kingdom stand?" So I think that's an amazing thing right there, that bring less division in this world, Satan can't stand. If we bring more love and compassion towards each other, Satan cannot get in between our world. We cannot be a divided world, or else it will fall. It will fail. It won't work. And right now, what's going on is exactly what they're trying to do, is to get us to be divided. It's what the devil is trying to do. It's what Satan is trying to get us to do, is to be more and more divided, so that our world will fail and will fall more than ever. And in this story that I was reading, it was when Jesus was casting out a demon, and people thought that he was getting his power from Satan. And what I kind of related this to, especially in our world right now, is that a lot of people think that, which, listen, I'm going to go into a little bit of political right now. Turn it off or keep listening. I'm going to just go into it. I think that a lot of people think that Trump is Satan. People think that Trump is the enemy. He's Hitler. He's all of these bad things. And what I relate it to is that people thought that Jesus was getting his power from Satan, and people think that Trump is getting his power from the enemy, or that Trump is Hitler, when in reality, Jesus is on Trump's side, in my personal opinion. I genuinely believe that what happened to Trump when he was shot at was literally a godsend, that he is alive and that he is okay. Jesus was literally protecting and shielding Trump from that, because genuinely what I believe is that Trump is our only hope in this world right now, in this fallen world, as a human being. Jesus is our hope, is our love, is our light, but as a human being form, Trump is our only hope to save this world right now, to save what is going on in this world. Also, what this story is talking about is that we see the heart of man confused by Satan's influence. We see people who are confused in this world, and what it's saying is we see the heart of man confused by Satan's influence to contradict and downplay a miracle Jesus performed. Jesus performed a miracle that day when Trump was protected by that bullet. He fully performed a miracle. And if you look to the left, they are going to downplay and contradict that miracle, that it wasn't a miracle, and it was. That was fully Jesus who protected him and who had him as a shield covering him, and only Jesus can do that. And going on to verse 23 in Luke chapter 11, he says, "Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters." So whoever is not with Jesus is constantly at a state of anxiety, at a state of confusion. But whoever is with him is at peace constantly. So I think that this story was just a really good reminder of where our world is right now, and that we need to stop going towards satanic influence in our world and start going towards Jesus influence, and realizing that Jesus is real and that Jesus has power over this world and power over what is going to happen in an election, over anything. And I just wanted to bring that on as a reminder, because that was important to me, and it is important to me, because we need to start pointing people towards truth and what's going on in this world, but in the pointing them towards truth through Jesus's word, through the Bible. And that just stuck out to me when I was reading that this morning, and I wanted to share that. So lastly, I just wanted to wrap up with this. So right now, especially, we are seeing a lot of people that are coming on and talking about how Jesus changed their life. And I just wanted to touch on this part a little bit, because Jesus changing your life is a true thing. It's a real thing. And it is a thing that people do experience. When you die to your old self and you become a new creation, you don't remember who your old self was. You get to live a new life with new wants and desires, and not wanting the things of the world, but wanting the things that Jesus gives us. And I was talking to my friend the other day about this. It's like it's a feeling that you can't describe until you get that feeling. And you just want to share it with everyone, because you are like, I know where you are at. I know that you are hurting. I know that you're broken. I know that you're lost. I know that you're stressed. But guess what? I have the answer to get you out of that. I have the answer to make that go away. I have the answer to make you feel fulfilled. And people just don't believe it or want to believe it, because they have these lies from the enemy in their head saying, no, you'll always feel that. No, you deserve to feel that. No one deserves to feel the way that you feel. don't get me wrong. I'm not perfect every day. I'm not 100% every day. But what I can tell you is when I'm not 100%, I have someone that I can go to no matter what that will give me truth and will give me experiences that make sense and that I can rely on. There are not many people in this world that you can fully rely on. And Jesus is that person. And I also think a lot of people associate Jesus and the church. And there is a lot of people who have been hurt from the church. But what we get to remember is that a church is run by people who are not perfect. A church is not run by perfect people. A church is run by people who were broken, who are broken, just like we are, but they want to spread the love and the encouragement that Jesus gives us. So something that we get to remember is that if we were hurt by the church, a church is literally full of broken people. And the beautiful part of it is, though, is that it's bringing us and teaching us about Jesus, who is perfect. So we can't confuse church with being this evil, horrible place, because the church is just a bunch of broken people trying to be better. And that is why church exists, because we are all trying to be better. We are all trying to learn things. And that is why church exists. And that is why Jesus created the church, because he's like, this is where you are going to learn about me. And this is where you are going to relate with people who come from your same background, who are dealing with the same things that you are dealing with right now. But the thing that's the same about you is that you both have me as your priority. So I think that that's what we get to be careful with if you are scared of walking with Jesus and relating it to the church, because the church is broken people too. And it's just people trying to be better, just like me and you are every single day. And that is what following Jesus is it's just trying to be a better person every single day. And it's trying to be more like Jesus every single day. And something that I think is just a little scary in my eyes is that Jesus is such like a big part on social media right now. And I think something we all get to remember is that Jesus is not a trend. He is not something that is just here for a couple months and then he goes away. No. Jesus is a lifetime. He is eternity. He is forever. He is never going away, and your relationship with him should never go away. It should just be growing more and more every single day, and every single time that you read about him, that you learn about him, it should always be growing and evolving. Now, I'm sure that whoever has started listening to my podcast since day one can see my passion and my knowledge about Jesus a little bit more than from the beginning. It takes a little bit to start understanding him. When it's probably took me a good 2 months to actually understand what I was reading in the Bible. I didn't just start reading the Bible and was like, oh, I'm healed. I get it now. No, I'm just starting to understand it. I'm just starting to grasp it. And that is like the beautiful part about a relationship with Jesus, is that it's never the same. It's always evolving. It's always getting better and getting deeper. And you are just realizing that you have someone who loves you so, so much, and it's never going to go away. And we are all looking for love, are we not? We're all looking for people who want us and desire us, and we're looking for so many things when we literally have it. We have it, but we are running around like crazy people looking for it in all the wrong places, in women, in men, in alcohol, in drugs. We are looking for it in the things of the world that are never going to give us that satisfaction, instead of going to the one person who's actually going to do that, and that's Jesus. I mean, think about that. We are going towards things that are constantly fleeting. And there is one thing that will never do that, and that's Jesus. So when you see people talking about how Jesus changed their lives, it is true. And my hope and my prayer for everyone who is listening and watching this is that you get to experience that, because it is unlike a feeling that I can't explain it. There's no There's no explaining it, but you get to learn that and you get to know that. And that is the beautiful part of it, is there's no wait list with Jesus. There is no, oh, okay, your turn to come and get to know me. No, no. There is room for everyone. There's room for every single person in this world. And you want to know why? That's because he made you. He made every single person in this world. And that is why there is room for every single person in God's kingdom, in God's home, because he created it for us and he created you through him. So don't ever think that, oh, it's too late. It's too soon. No, it's never too late and it's never too soon. It's always just the perfect time. When you start following Jesus is the perfect time every single time. So I just hope that whoever is listening, whoever is watching, wants to give their life and make the decision to give their life to Jesus. Because when you die to your old self and you become your new self and you become a new person, you have so much to offer in this world. When you have Jesus by your side, you have so much to offer in this world. Jesus has eternal things to offer in this world, and so do you through him. So just remember that your sin isn't too much. Show compassion and love to everyone that you come in contact with, no matter who it is, no matter if you are a mean New Yorker like I am. Show compassion and love, and remember that Jesus has our world and what is going to happen in this world already planned out. Even though I love Trump and I believe that he can change what's going on in our world, I know that Jesus is the only one who can truly change what's going on in our world. But I truly believe that Jesus is behind Trump's side or back. He's behind Trump's back, leading him and guiding him to run our country again. So just remember that the church is broken people who are learning about Jesus and sharing Jesus and pointing you towards him. And they are all broken, just like you are. And that is the beautiful thing of church, is that you get to connect with people who are just like you. And I also just encourage you to start listening to podcasts who do talk about Jesus. When I stopped listening to personal development podcasts and started listening to Christian podcasts, that's when everything changed for me, you guys. I'm not like just saying that. That is literally when everything changed for me. My life changed when when I put down the personal development and worldly things and started opening up Jesus. That is when my life changed. So I don't know. I can't express it or encourage you more to do the same. It's not a fad or a fad diet. It's a real thing. So, yeah, I hope that this episode spoke to you. Just remember to go out there, spread light, spread love, spread compassion, because this world needs it. When you see someone in need, help them. When you are going to say something mean or honk your horn like I do all the time, don't. Maybe give them a nice wave or a smile. I'm going to work on that too. And I am praying for you all. I'm praying for just strength in this fallen world. I'm praying for strength in whatever you're going through right now, because we're all going through something. We're all struggling. There is never a perfect day. And I just pray that you all just get to experience the love and the light from Jesus, and that you get to shine it through you too. So thank you guys so much for listening. I can't express the love and appreciation that I have for everyone who showed me love on this podcast. It's not easy coming on here and talking about Jesus and sharing all the things that I know, and the reason being because you get a lot of judgment, but the reason that it gets easier is because I know the truth, and the people who don't know the truth, I pray for them. And that is why I love this podcast so much. So I can't tell you how grateful I am for you to listen and share and show love towards me in this podcast. It really means the absolute world to me. So go out there, be the best people that you are, keep it real out there, and share this with a friend, with a loved one, anyone that you think could benefit from this. I love you all. Keep it real out there, and I'll see you on the next one.